Hello everybody, welcome back, and if you are new, welcome. My name is Chris. Tonight's video is going to be about fragrances with a note of lychee in them. I had several people that were interested in the video, so it's surprising how many fragrances I own that have the note of lychee in them. I think I have around 10, and I have other fragrances that even though I don't have the full bottle, I either have samples or I've smelled them in the store, and I will be discussing those as well. While we have a little bit of warm weather left in this year, I wanted to squeak out a few more outside videos. And since I'm going to try to do 2 videos tonight, why don't I just get started? So first of all, what is lychee or lychee? It is an exotic fruit. You don't see it everywhere, particularly here in the Midwest. I never see it. The only time I've ever had lychee in something that was served to me was on a cruise or in a mocktail or a cocktail. I've had a couple of lychee mojitos, and they're quite delicious, and the lychee fruit is actually in the drink. And at least in my experience, they taste like somewhere in between a green apple and a green grape and jicama. If you combined all those together, you would get close to a lychee. But it is a sweet smelling fruit with freshness, and that's the best way I can put it. And when that's added to fragrances, I think it imparts a very lovely, something very likable. And a lot of very popular fragrances have lychee or lychee in them. So let's talk about a few. I'm going to start the list with my fragrance of the day, at least this morning. And it is a perfume that I adore the scent profile of, and it is by Bond Number 9, and it's Greenwich Village. I love the bottle. I love the way that it smells, because a part of this does remind me a little bit of one of my favorite perfumes, Baccarat Rouge 540. This is a very happy, flirty, very uplifting perfume. Well, in addition to lychee, this also has rose. It has water lotus or water lily, and one other flower in here, either peony or tuberose. But the lychee in general gives fragrances a sweet, fresh, fruity touch. So this is sweet. Let me get my blotter. This is sweet, like Baccarat 540, but it doesn't have that spun sugar sweetness at all. It's a little bit more citrusy. It's a little bit more clean, not as cotton candy, spun sugar sweetness, and it's much lighter. This fragrance, at least on me, wears very, very light. I spray this about maybe 8 times, and it is a very, very close scent bubble. Now, I'm doing a series right now, 50 fragrances under 50, and when perfumes are under $50, particularly when they're $30 or less, I don't necessarily expect them to perform like beasts. I'm totally fine with 3 or 4 hours. I can make do. But fragrances that are more expensive, such as this one, I would prefer them, or I expect more out of them. And this one just performs on the lighter side, which if I'm making lemonade out of lemons, I would say works for me, because it is a very good work fragrance, and people can only smell me, they can only smell my sillage when I walk by them, and then they get to experience my sillage. That's the only time they can smell me. So for me, at least, it's a great work perfume, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So the next one is one I've spoken about before. It's actually considered vintage now, because I think it's from the early 2000s, and it is Miracle by Lancome. I've talked about this being a watered down version of Pure Poison. Pure Poison is a much stronger version of this. This is a less soapier version of Pure Poison, and it just has a little bit more. It's got some spices and some amber in it to give it a little bit of sweetness to kind of tame down whatever soapiness is in here. I find this very, very pleasant. It has lychee, magnolia, amber, a little bit of spices, and I think one other flower, but it's just quite lovely. I still enjoy it after all these years. Very easygoing, easy reach. It was in my white t-shirt fragrance for a reason. It's very versatile. The next one is another one I've spoken about. This is one of my favorite florals. It's Fleur Narcotique by Ex Nihilo. This has peony, there's jasmine, you've got lychee. This also has another watery floral, whether it's water lily or lotus. This is a really nicely composed floral with some sweetness and some tartness that kind of plays and just forms this really spectacularly made floral fragrance. So it's bright, it's happy, it's uplifting. Obviously it has lychee in it. This one does perform really, really well. It's not strong, but it lasts all day. I mean, it lasts at least 6 hours, but it's not overwhelming. The performance is good, but it's not overpowering, which makes this much more versatile, and I do wear this to work. The next one I have never spoken about because it's relatively new. It's by a new house from Tremendous Parfums, and this one's called De Floral. They came out with 3 fragrances maybe 2 months ago, and the nice thing is that these are 3.4 ounces, and they actually have a great atomizer, which I will show you in a minute, and they're only $75 in the bottles. Very, very nice. So I do think they are very well priced. I will say that the three of them were gifted to me. One was a love right away, one was a like, and one just wasn't for me. I think it was a really well made fragrance, but it reminded me of a perfume that I just don't get along with, the Miller Harris Scherzo. I think I'm the only one on the planet that doesn't find that a masterpiece. There's just something in there that just gives me a headache. One of these fragrances smelled like that, so it just wasn't my thing. It just so happens that the fragrance that I loved is this one, and it has lychee in it. So this is I would describe this as an amber fruity floral. It has lychee, some fruits, some florals in here. I looked at the notes yesterday. It has lychee, orange, cassis or cassis. It has several different flowers, maybe lotus, water lily, but it is a really sweet and clean fruity floral. It's somewhere in between Burberry Rhythm, which was my favorite Burberry, which happened to be discontinued. If you took Burberry Rhythm, you took Meliora from Parfums de Marly, and Flora Narcotique, and you kind of mix them all together, you would come up with something similar to this. So I wore this to work, and one of my coworkers, who I have some very picky coworkers, are like my little guinea pigs. They always tell me if they like what I'm wearing. They'll be totally honest. One of them, who's on the picky side, said, "Oh my God, what are you wearing? You smell amazing." And it was this fragrance, and the only fragrance that she really kind of went nuts about when I was wearing it was Burberry Rhythm. And I ended up giving her the bottle because she loved it so much. So it made sense that she loved this that much. And then about maybe 4 hours later, when I thought the fragrance was completely gone, I really didn't think I could smell it on myself, I walked out to the general work area, and I needed to talk to the same person, my friend, and looked at her computer. So I walked up behind her. I was looking at her computer. She turns around and she says, "By the way, you still smell freaking amazing." That's a quote. I told her that the bottle was going to be hers for Christmas. I told her to forget about it, that she ever saw it. I'm going to wrap it up and give it to her for Christmas. And the next day she came to work and said, "I can't stop thinking about that perfume. It smelled so good." So it's very, very pretty. The sprayers are very nice. Has a very good sprayer. Very nice sprayer. I don't know if you can see that. So beautiful fragrance, well-made, niche perfume for $75 that if I wasn't such a good friend, I'd keep myself. But since my friend is so picky, she loves this so much, I will be giving this to her for Christmas. But a beautiful, fresh fruity floral with some lychee. Now onward, let's go to the triplets. We're gonna have to get, you knew it was coming. It wouldn't be a lychee fragrance video without the Delina girls. So we have the OG. When this first came out, I wasn't super attracted to it. I think there's just a little bit of bitterness that was just keeping me from loving it, and I finally went back to it, and I adore it now. It works very well on me now. It's very beautiful. I just think this is like the ultimate happy fragrance. It's like the ultimate fragrance for a bride. It's just like the ultimate pretty fragrance. My favorite that I love to wear in the wintertime is Delina Exclusive. So this one has the DNA of the original Delina, minus that little bitterness, and I want to say it's rhubarb that's giving it kind of the green, crunchy bitterness. This has just like a big dollop. I would say it's Delina minus the rhubarb with a huge dollop of vanilla ice cream. And even though this has some deeper notes in it, I know it has oud and it has incense. And to be honest, when I'm just smelling myself in the air, and by the way, this is a beast. I've sprayed this in my hair. I could smell it 24 hours later. This is a 12-hour plus fragrance. But even though those heavy notes are listed, I don't get that in the air. I only get that if I smell directly on my arm or wherever I sprayed it, then I get those deeper notes. I prefer the way this smells in the air and in my sillage. But this is my favorite cold weather Delina. I will be wearing this one all the time in the colder months. Now, the summer flanker that I've spoken about before is Delina La Rosee, and this one will be put away for the winter time. It still has some of that Delina DNA, but it just has this watermelon vibe going on. It's very watery, it's aquatic, it's not as sweet. It's still sweet, but it has a sweetness like a fruity sweetness, and I believe it's from pear. So if you really spray a lot, it gets sweet, but it still has great performance. This thing is great in the heat. You can wear this in 100-degree weather, and it's just very refreshing and wonderful. I love this. I wore it all the time in the summer. I wore it to work. It's very universally pleasing. It's hard to dislike this one. So let's go to one that I don't believe I've ever spoken about on camera that I really do like. And it is Very Good Girl by Carolina Herrera. I'm going to admit to you, I did not like Good Girl at all. The original when it came out, I mean at all. I didn't like it at all. But I'm one of those that thinks the bottles are just so darn cute. I think they're very cute and very creative. And then I went and tried, I want to say Good Girl Légère. That was kind of my gateway to Good Girl. And I really like that one. And I subsequently bought almost all the flankers just because I enjoyed the bottle. I still don't love Good Girl, even though I have it in a few flankers. But I really, really, really like this one because it has lychee. It smells really good. It has some berries in here. So lychee, red berries, there's still rose. You still have that rose lychee combination, vanilla and musk. To me, this is just yes, it is similar to Delina. I know it gets compared to Delina all the time. To me, this is a less edgier version of Delina the OG without any bitterness. So it's more of a universally appealing. Sometimes Delina, you either love it or some people just don't like it at all. This is a typical designer fragrance in that it is composed to appeal to the masses. And I think this is a very, very nice fragrance. I enjoy it. Performance is very, very good. It's not like Delina or the flankers. It's not a beast, but it'll get you most of the day. And I was kind of late to the party. I didn't realize that both Good Girl and Delina were created by the same perfumer, Quentin Biche, so it would make sense that there were some similarities in there. So one that I don't think about as having lychee in it when I think about the perfume is Ylang Gold, but it does have lychee in this composition. You know, when I smell this, I think of peach, I think of ylang, I think of coconut, and I think of vanilla. But it still has it is a floral gourmand. It still has a freshness to it. It's not overwhelming. It's not overpowering. Lychee does add a nice freshness to it. It is one of my favorite floral gourmands. This is one of the best tropical gourmands ever made. I absolutely adore this fragrance, and I will be putting it away, I think, for the winter time because I've just gotten in the habit of thinking that this is a warm tropical fragrance, even though I know I could wear it in the wintertime. It just has too many memories of me wearing this in the warm weather, and I always think of just like a super exotic tropical getaway when I think of this fragrance. But another one that has the note of lychee. Oh my gosh, did I get through them that fast? So I really did get through these quite quickly. Now, a couple ones that I don't have bottles of, I had a sample, but I wrote down a couple different ones. I wrote down notes because I don't have the perfume with me, is Rose Magnétique by Essential Parfums. I'll put a picture up, in my opinion, one of the best niche houses around because the fragrances are all composed by top noses. They are amazingly made fragrances, and they are in these big 3.4 ounce bottles, and they're $75. I mean, for a niche house, that is the ultimate beginner niche house. And I enjoy most of their fragrances. I don't think there's any in the line that I don't like. My favorite is Divine Vanille. I love that one. My second favorite is Rose Magnétique, which I actually had two samples of. I went through them and I jotted down my little notes. And if I didn't have so many rose lychee fragrances or rose fragrances in general, I would have purchased the bottle because I love it. But, you know, I really just don't need it. I might revisit it sometime in the future, but I don't need it. So to me, that came off as a fresh, slightly jammy, sweet rose that has a nice citrusy freshness. And it had a sweet, musky dry down. And oh, I wrote down, I forgot that it didn't last very long. So maybe that's the reason why I didn't buy a full bottle, but I still think it's wonderfully made. And then when I went to Italy, one of the fragrances that I wanted to try that had lychee in it was called 4711 Aqua Colonia. Are you gonna swim? It was called 4711 Aqua Colonia that had lychee and mint in it. So I almost blind bought that online. I'm so glad I didn't. I popped in the store, I smelled it, and it literally smelled like water. I mean, like, didn't smell like anything. So I didn't buy that. I would recommend, highly recommend, if you want a perfume that smells like water, go for it. Otherwise, you should definitely test it. And then finally, the fragrance I'm wearing right now. So my fragrance of the morning was Greenwich Village. When I drove home, as on my way home, I knew that I couldn't do a lychee video without having Angel Nova that I don't own. And I don't own it because I never bought it because it never passed the sniff test. So I was just something about it when I sprayed it on the little tester strip. I just didn't like it at all in the opening. It was like I sprayed it, I put it down, and I walked out the door. So I'm wearing it again. I took the long way home after work. I sprayed it on at Ulta, and what happened again, I sprayed it and I doused myself and I started coughing. There's something in the opening that just isn't me, just doesn't appeal to me. The dry down is much better, but having all these really nice rose lychee combinations, I do not need it. It's not a love, so I never purchased it. But I know that it's beloved by many. And I think that's literally the quickest video I've ever done. Fragrances with a note of lychee in them. If you have one that I didn't talk about, let me know in the comments below, like I need another one. Thank you again for stopping by, and I will see you on the next one.